Hi everybody, I want to show you my thought processes when I start to make a track and how I try to approach it. Very quickly, what I try and do on the syntax is I go into the approach of making a banger. And you might think, well, how can you possibly do that? Well, if you have that approach in your mind, if you say, right, I'm going to make a banger, A, I think the music will be more focused, and B, you might produce just some really nice music. So my focus is always about creating a banger. Now, how I try and develop things from here is quite interesting. So I'm going to play the first pattern, the first start of the track here, maybe the first 20 seconds, not to consume YouTube time or Instagram time, just from the fact this is how the track started off, and then my thought process of how it's going to end. You can see the good old notebooks here today. If I can just move that out of the way without knocking my cup of tea over or whatever. So that's my actual thought process, how it all started off. But it actually started off as 1, and it's actually going to start off on pattern 5. So let me just show you, first of all, how this track was meant to start. Big opener. But that's not how I'm going to finish the track. That's not how the track's going to be completed. I did actually think that sounded quite good, and it was part of what I would actually include in any of my tracks, because obviously these are my sets, my complete sets here. My sets are eight tracks, about 45 to 50 minutes long, and I decided that was not what I wanted. But although it did have the impression of being a banger, so what I decided to do was bit of a build up and then change it slightly. So here we go. I'm just going to play this, how the track's actually going to work, although it's nowhere near finished. Steady build. I think that's more classic, to be honest. So you can see how the track is completely different to how it started off, because I thought, the track was starting off too quickly. You might say it wasn't, Nick, it was great, but that was my peace of mind. Now, a couple of things I want to show you, a couple of tricks, tips and tricks, if there is such a thing nowadays, because there's so much good stuff on YouTube. Let's just have a quick look how I went from track 7, which is this one. How do I go from track 7 to track 15? What I did was actually just introduce another drum. You can tell here, look at track 11. So right, this is the melody, if you can say it's a drum melody. And then look what happens on the screen now. I've just added another deeper drumming. So although the beats, the sound, the trigs, all the technical parts are the same, all of them is just changed one part. Now what I decided to do was, rather than throw away the first part of the track, I wanted to actually incorporate some of it. So you probably hear a bit of the first part of the track. I didn't want to lose that. And then back. So you can see how I've actually built the track, or tried to build the track, etc. So it's a bit more interesting now then. What I decided to do then in my thinking on this track, and hopefully you'll like it, is just to change it up a bit, just to change it slightly. I mean, I think it's called a bridge or something. So let's just see what I did to change it. I just created something completely different, just randomly threw something down and create something different. So here we are on track number 7, and then let's go into number 9 and see what happens. Track number 9. All I've done is just change the sound, and let's go back into number 12. And then back to number 7. So in a lot of cases, when I've started to build a track or start a track or, decide how I'm going to go, I start off with wanting to create a banger. You might say, well, anybody could say that, but if my mindset's right, I know I'll hopefully create something nice because I've already sat down, decided what I want to do. I always go for 148 BPM, as you know, because then when I've got my 8 tracks here, this is a brand new set, by the way, that has not been played, but it will be played very soon. If they're all 148, the transition's great using the Pioneer 500 RMX. Now, this is a new set called Fang Techno, and it's all quite hard techno, dark, upcycle, hardcore bites, is very, very industrial dance. Boop is also quite hard. Batman's a bit lighter, Flake, and then Rogue, and then Ibiza is my dance track for Ibiza if I ever go to play there. But anyway, so just to give you an idea, I'm just going off there slightly randomly really, is that sometimes when I'm building a track or changing track, I'm just actually changing one sound, if you're changing just one track, but keeping the rest the same. And so myself, I'm familiar with what it sounded like here, and then just change the track over. So I've got exactly the same, rhythm and beat and the continuity. The other thing I will try to do, in fairness, I will try to manipulate this sound before I try and change the track. So if you hear number 7 here, you can hear that way. I go into the synth, good synth engine. Is that suitable for a transition? No? That possibly could be. So you can hear on track 11 it's slightly different, but I wouldn't use that, there's just not enough change. Track number 9, track number 9 is also part of this. So can I change something there? Possibly? No. Disastrous. Let's go into the actual LFO. Subtle changes while changing the phasing. Let's go into the tune. Actually, in fairness, the tune changing its line, so it's worth going into tune. Let's go into filter. Just knock that tune off. Go back into filter. Now that's interesting because you've got like a back drum there. But what I decided to do in the end was actually just, in fairness, let me just load that up again. Yes. Don't save it. So what I decided to do then was actually change some of the tracks, maybe change some of the synths, but just really started to enjoy myself really, and I didn't want to start the track like this. You might say that could be another track. Could I split it into 2 different tracks? It does actually flow, but I prefer this. show you how I've got this nice drum. I haven't got loads of trick boss in it. If you go into the amp and the reverb and delay, I've got a massive delay on there. And if you go into the amp as well, the reverb, you can see I've got massive amounts of reverb there, so that's creating that nice rolling drum. Well, that's just some tips and tricks. Hope it made sense to you. Drop me some questions if you want, drop me a smiley face, but I just wanted to give you an idea of how I've got on creating this track. And we'll see you next time and we'll play out.